So Paul and Vincent, 20th floor of Montreal. My big question for you right now is, what is your favorite view in Montreal? You're natives, right? You were born and bred here, worked here, I think, in my opinion, sort of changed the face of Montreal design by the work that you do. So it is a bit of a pointed question, but we're looking out. I mean, I wish everybody could see this on camera, but like this epic vista of so much. Do you have a favorite spot, place, view?
Hard to say. I don't know. I've never seen this view. This is pretty good. So right now, this kind of takes the cake for me, I guess.
Yeah, new at all times.
Yeah.
Amazing. Will you have a favorite view?
Yeah, I'd say the city skyline when you're driving on Wellington Street towards Peel. There's like a bump at one point, and you can see the city and the canal.
Yeah, the landscapes. And we just had a little chat before this. Tell me a little bit, if you could just remind me, getting to know you, who each of you is. But you also said you grew up next to each other, like this idea of locality, you know, from the city, the skyscape, but you also sort of have this like neighborly past.
Yeah, well, we both grew up in the Southwest. Like, we didn't know, it's not like I knew him when I was a kid.
It's like an age gap.
There was an age gap. It's just more when we, first met, we kind of figured out we were from the same part of Montreal, and that kind of brought us, some sort of common ground, and we were like just hyped to know that there's other people from my neighborhood that are, like-minded and stuff. So that was fun.
And led to today.
Yeah.
And remind me what each of you do today in your professional lives, because you have a lot of overlap. You do projects together sometimes.
So I'm a co-owner and designer at Dime, just Montreal skate company. And been doing that for 8 years now.
Maybe an understated way to say Montreal Skate Company. I feel it's like a preeminent skate brand of the world.
Yeah. Cool. I mean,
yeah. And your background is in what? How'd you end up there?
So I actually grew up with one of the original founders, Phil. We went to elementary school and high school together, and he was always more towards like skateboarding and really wanting to film clips. Like, that was his thing. Since we were like 15, that's what he was doing. And me on the other side, I was really, really more towards arts and design. That was like always much more what I was looking towards, and fashion. So we kind of both took like these separate paths when we were teenagers up until we were adults. And then one day it was just kind of like we saw like an opportunity to do something more than, like, for him, more than just being a skateboard film director, and for me, more than just, a photographer or designing for someone else. We were like, let's try and just make a couple t-shirts, and we did that, and that's kind of how it started. We made a couple t-shirts.
That's the mythical story.
Yeah.
And mutual inspiration too, it sounds like.
Yeah, for sure. Just because we grew up together, we obviously listened to the same music, and we like the same stuff, and then it kind of made sense to start collaborating.
Yeah, and grow from there. And Paul, obviously you are different in age, but it seems like also really aligned in terms of sort of how you got there. Tell me more about what you do today, how you got there.
I mean, today I work with a few different partners. I work as a creative consultant and as a strategist. I do a lot of storytelling stuff as people start talking about content. My last real job was head of creative at the Vice office in Montreal. I studied photography way back when, which led to me shooting ad campaigns in both the music industry and in lifestyle streetwear companies, as that was kind of becoming a thing. And I've kind of been lucky in that I've said yes to everything, and I've been allowed to kind of consult on brand, on design, on clothing, on what you should do with your company and or your person. And I've been blessed to work with people all over the world. So
serial collaborators, it sounds like, too. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you've collaborated with each other in work?
Yeah, I mean, we met when Vinny was maybe 16.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And
yeah, we worked on some projects together. We did that music video for Azalea Banks, the 212 music video. That was like I think that was like
That's probably pretty much, I think that's pretty much the only thing we've actually really done together.
Mm-hmm.
But the rest of the time it's been like more kind of behind the snes, like, hey, you like this? Or, hey,
what do you think of this?
What do you think of this? Or, hey, I saw you made that. I really want one.
You've got like a black market of trade of goods. Yeah. Do you think there's, I mean, it's interesting to hear you say this. Originally I studied screenwriting and contemporary dance and then got a master's degree in industrial design. So I've always been really interested in like the fluidity of the creative scenes and like personally just thrive on collaboration. Like I think it's underneath all of it, you know, continuing to try to like go down one path was never going to work because it was the relationships that seemed to matter most and like, and maybe the learning too. Yeah. And I'm so curious to know, because you've obviously, to me it seems like looking at both of your work, like you obviously make amazing content, but we all know that the making of stuff comes from a process of people. And I'm super curious to know if you have any insights or learnings from all of these years of like what makes for a good collaboration, what makes for a good partner in work. Like, does it have to come from friendship, or are there things that you look for when, you know, like a client approaches you or a project emerges?
For me, I think it's like a lot of it is like humility. Knowing that there are people better than you at certain things is like super important, I think, creatively, and to respect that and to be able to take other people's opinions because they are an expert in whatever field it may be, right? Like, yeah.
I mean, I think if you're talking brand collaboration, it's different. Like there's like is this a good fit, and are we an actual natural fit, or is us working together actually an authentic fit, or are we taking the piss, or, you know, I think there's that. And then in terms of like creative collaboration, to what he said about like, it's really, really smart to work with people that are better than you, that are different than to you. And I think I would add like, to be open to listening. And just like I know for me in 2011 at one point I was freelancing at Sid Lee, and I was sitting in a room full of art directors and writers, and I had a good relationship with the creative director on the project, and I sat through all the ideas and I thought 98% of them were terrible. And when everybody left the room and it was just me and the CD in the room, I said, I don't know how you do this. It's why, like. And then he's like, here, come look at my paper. He's like, every bad idea had at least one good sentence in it. And like, since then, I've been like, I've been championing safe creative space and like really being open to other people's experiences and ideas and like what you can learn from in that kind of way.
Yeah, what an awesome metaphor for life. Yeah. I'm just gonna call that out. Yeah. You know, something that we rarely think about in like the speed and the efficiency. I'm curious to know, like, we're obviously like still in COVID. Has that changed anything for you in terms of collaboration, like with other people, with brands, for example, too? Because I think obviously, you know, the design marketplace has drastically changed. The art world has drastically changed. Do you see any like nuances there that you've learned from?
Well, from experience on just like the couple of collabs we did recently, for sure it's changed in the way we build the content, right? Like travel restrictions were tough to deal with. We wanted to film our commercial somewhere else and we couldn't really do it. So yeah, a lot of things made us have to kind of be more agile and think differently, and yeah, it keeps you on your toes a bit, I guess, and you kind of got to figure out how do we get the best out of the situation that we have. And yeah, I think the travel thing is like a big one for collaborations, at least for us. Like, it was one of the best parts for me personally about collaborating, example, with Reebok or Vans, was the ability to go to, example, to Cali and to their office, and then you can like see and understand what they're doing, and then find something that works for both brands. But like it's good to be in their space to be able to you know, incorporate their DNA into whatever product that we're doing, right? Example, Reebok, when we go there, we're able to look at their archives and see what the history of the brand is, and it's much more difficult for them to translate that in an email, right? So
Yeah, the vibe matters.
yeah.
Yeah. It makes me wonder too, because when you were talking about, like, you know, being in a creative meeting, seeing someone create a safe space, I always wonder about this on the flip side. You know, you get approached by brands sometimes, and like, what would best practices be for a brand? Because you get hit with a brief, and it's so, like, you know, limite. C'est comme un tout petit morceau de quelque chose. Is there a way that, like, or have you had experiences with brands where you're like, that was an awesome way to engage with us, like from the artist side, from the creative side, consultant side? I always think about that.
I mean, I think we're both in situations where it's very, very easy to say no. And I think, I mean, I don't want to talk for you, but like integrity wise, like if you're not really driven by money, like, you don't have to do anything you don't want to do. And, you know, all the collaborations they've done over the last few years, to me, like, their fits, like, you know, their fits in terms of, like, their brand's personalities. I don't want to speak for you, but
No, but yeah, to add to
like-
that, it's like, I think, at least for us, on a collaboration philosophy has always been kind of like, if we can't do it ourselves, sorry, let me rephrase that. If we can do it ourselves, then we would not be collaborating. Does that make sense? So that's kind of why we often, or most often of the time, only do, for example, footwear, because that's not something that we do. But if it was a clothing company that make t-shirts and that was their main bread and butter that came to us and was like, let's do a t-shirt together, I'd kind of be like, well, I'm not really learning much and you won't either. Let's think of a product we've never done and you've never done, and let's do something like that, you know? So I think that's one thing that is very important to me and for Dime, is that we always think of these things as like, well, if we can't, you know.
Yeah, like making a playground for learning.
Right.
Yeah, it seems to fuel. I mean,
Yeah.
I think it fuels all of us. I know that's the idea of, like, what you were saying before, of finding people who are, you know, have an expertise different than yours,
Yeah.
or like know something different. Yeah. I think it's a really interesting way sometimes to frame briefs too. Like, what do you want to learn? I don't know, it comes to mind as I'm hearing both of you, you know, because it's kind of like, it's the language that we don't get a lot in that world, and it's really awesome to hear that underneath. From I think a local perspective, I'm really curious to know too, you've traveled all around the world, you've like collaborated, you know, with everyone who's everyone. Why Montreal? Why do you keep coming back here? What's special about this place for you?
now or 20 years ago?
Well, both.
I mean, pre-COVID, like, I was on a plane a lot at like a really kind of high cadence, and I think 20 years ago when I was starting my career, I think that the rents were so cheap here that it just didn't make sense to lose the apartment. So even though I went and set up in other cities like New York or Toronto, or, you know, spending life on the road with musicians and stuff, it just made sense to like kind of have a home base here because it was inexpensive. But I mean, pre-COVID, I was working on my visa to move to California.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so.
Yeah. How the world has changed.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm in like the opposite of you now, see?
Oh, no, but I mean, I'm no
Yeah.
longer the opposite of you. Like,
No.
we're good here. Like, so.
What about you?
For me, it was, again, like we were saying earlier, I always thought career-wise I'd be living in LA or Portland by now, art directing or designing for a bigger footwear company or something like that. But I guess one of the things we wanted to do with Dime was to prove that you can create something in your city and be proud of it, and have, you know, your friends and your family and the whole community of, you know, skate culture be proud of it too. And that's what's kind of driving that motivation right now, is to make make my home city cool and and yeah.
Is there anything unique about skate culture that you think like helps facilitate that? Because it's obviously like when I look across the world too, like skate culture is cool for lack of a for a better word.
Yeah, I think, well, the fact that it's like it's kids on the street, right? And they're on the street like at a pretty young age. So they see everything. They see the ups and they see the downs of society, and that really, makes you a different person and the way you see life. And yeah, I don't know. I think that creates a very tightly knit community when you see the kind of things you see when you grow up on the street.
Yeah. It strikes me too. It's like it's an intense sport. Like it's so physical.
Oh, for sure.
And like painful at the same time.
Yeah.
And I'm terrible at it, so I'm not going to pretend that I have good experience skateboarding. But it does strike me that also, thinking about that as like collaboration, as community building, there is something that's like the unromantic part of building community that's also like the pain that you kind of go through. Yeah. I mean, now also in the world, in the global context, we were just been talking with friends recently, and like it's so, I don't know if you've had this experience, but like the ups are ups and the downs are downs, like the ambiguity of the world is around us. And I find myself also just feeling like even more committed to my relationships, to the communities around me, because of the value of just almost like holding space together. You're talking about like holding a creative space together. It's like those relationships mean more than ever before, I feel like.
100%,
Yeah. From a development perspective, you've built Dime. Where did that inspiration come from? Obviously it's like clearly like a Dior riff, but
yeah, I think I actually don't want to talk about it too much, but like we can kind of brief it up, I guess. It was always, when we came up with that, it was just, we were just having fun, and we were like, it'd be funny to just write it like that. It was like as simple as like, we just thought it would be funny to do that, coming from a skate brand that's like, broke kids just printing t-shirts. Like, let's make the most high-end looking fashion tee. And I guess people like that joke, and that's where we're at now today.
I recently had a client tell me that, he was like, why do you do this? And I was like, oh, because it's fun. And he was like, what do you mean it's fun? And I was like, well, it's fun. And he was like, there's no place for fun in this. And it broke my heart. I think I was like, but like fun, not as an aesthetic, but like fun as a practice. I think so much amazing stuff comes from it.
Yeah, I think, a lot of it was just like, we thought it would be a fun visual to see skateboarders wearing like a Dior looking t-shirt or something like that. It's just like a good visual to see. I don't know.
Never before seen. Yeah. Paul, I'm curious to know what you're working on right now. What does life look like for you?
Right now I have a few retainers with a bunch of different companies. I work with a former partner at Sidley whose name's Justin Kingsley, and we work for Bombardier Recreational Products, we work for George St. Pierre, and we work for the Montreal Impact. So those are three of the things, and then I in and out consult for brands like Adidas and other kind of clothing brands like that.
You're behind a lot of the stories of the world, it sounds like.
I mean, I was listening to him speak before, and like, what's really interesting is that I went to school in an era when everything was really analog and the internet wasn't the internet yet. And I kind of got the opportunity to say, hey, I'm going to take these pictures, but then no, I'm going to do your ad buy. No, I'm going to pick the models in your campaign. No, I'm gonna. Like, I'm going to edit this magazine instead of just buy the advertising or pay for the advertising. And I think that in my time, the internet wasn't the internet yet. Like, Dime has a global audience. It's like, as much as we talk about skateboarding in the Montreal community that like fuels it, Like, it's the street, it's comedy, it's fun, it's like having fun. And at the root, like, they were fucking making skate videos and decided to make a t-shirt. It wasn't like, and it's like, oh, but wait, we actually can do this. And then without ever taking yourself seriously, like, I don't know how many pieces were in the first catalog, but I do remember you and I turning e-commerces on at 9 p.m. at exactly the same time on the phone. And by midnight, him being sold out and my dinky project being sold out at midnight as well. So, it's I'm talking about two different things here, but really in the end, it's about possibility and like not letting someone frame you by saying, hey, what do you do? Oh, Paul's a photographer.
Yeah.
Like, fuck your box. I didn't want to be in your box 20 years ago. I'm not in your box today. And I've been fortunate enough in my life that I've said yes to everything. And I trial and errored my way through marketing departments at clothing companies, at ad agencies who didn't know if they should call me a creative or a strategist, because I spent my time trying to put the idea in the box, which is you end up being the facilitator between two things. And I think really in the end, like when I look at the work I'm doing today, like with some of my clients, I'm allowed to have a say in design and color ups, and I'm allowed to have a say in what a rollout would look like, and I'm allowed to say like, hey, the internet's a different place than like, let's stop thinking about conventional things. And I think that if we look at the future, like the big ad agency concept of having 100 creatives in a room and like all this shit is gonna go away, because you can put 5 guys together, or a team of people that have absolutely different interests from different disciplines, and they can do a rollout. Like, I can go in a room with him and 2 other people and do a brand strategy that'll destroy an ad agency. I don't want to, and let's take that out because I don't want to sound cocky, but what I'm saying really is that because of the tools that exist in the world on the internet and computers, like a group of well-rounded kids who have an interest in things, like can do anything.
Right.
So him saying, oh, I thought I'd be 30 and designing at Nike. Well, I thought I'd be 30 and working at Whedon and Kennedy, because as much as Spike Lee was important to my life and all these independent movie directors, like the work that ad agency did shaped my entire childhood. So.
Yeah, for sure. Tools, access, power.
Yeah.
I mean, those feel like future notes, and I'm curious to know if you have any thoughts for the future. Like, how would you want to see your industry grow, or even I think for people listening, quotes of inspiration.
I think again, like to what Paul said, I thought was like super important is like that box thing, right? It's like, we did this Reebok collaboration and we did a basketball shoe, but and a lot of people will be like, but Dime's a skateboard company, why are they doing a basketball shoe? And that's where I think it's like, that's where I want people to kind of open their minds. It's like, you can be a skater and be a musician. Like, it's not, it's not one or the other, just like you can be a skater and a designer. And I think that's something that I would like for people to start understanding and grasping, that idea that you can do so many things and it's not as closed as you think it may be.
Yeah, the future is fluid.
Yeah,
Totally. On that note, I really want to thank both of you. I've learned so much just from talking to you, and it's been a real pleasure. I hope 2021 kicks 2020 in the butt, so and then I keep seeing your work just thrive.
Thank you.
Thanks
Thank
so
you.
much. Yeah.
Thank you.